Hi everyone, welcome back to Lifting the Lamp. I'm Frater Eleftheria, and in this video I'm going to reveal to you and walk through with you a method that comes down to us from medieval magic for calculating the name of one's personal angel, and it's a method that makes use of astrology and the Hebrew alphabet. So that's what I'm going to be covering tonight, and the kind of insights that you can have into your life and your path and your destiny by discovering this angelic name. So let's jump straight into it. The technique that I'm going to be sharing with you now comes down to us from Henry Cornelius Agrippa, who is one of the most well-known and influential medieval magicians of the Western esoteric tradition. He was so influential, in fact, that he was one of the inspirations for none other than John Dee of Enochian magic fame. And in my previous video from last week, I sort of touched upon some of the influence of Agrippa upon Dee. And now I want to go look into a bit more detail on some of the work that Agrippa is most famous for in his seminal text on magic, the 3 books of occult philosophy. In book 3 of the 3 books of occult philosophy, chapters 26 and 27, Agrippa gives a series of methods of calculating the names of spirits and geniuses which are personal to oneself and one's own life path. And some of those spirits are not so good, and others are angelic in nature. And there's a few different types of names that you can calculate using Agrippa's methods. I'm going to focus on one particular method, which is the so-called Arabic method, for calculating a particular name of a natal angel that is personal to you and whose name holds a lot of power and a lot of significance for you if you can discover it. As a bit of a primer for that discussion, it's worth saying that Agrippa's methods in these chapters of his book 3 of occult philosophy all revolve around this idea that you can take your natal chart, your astrological chart, and then divide it into 360 degrees, which is the number of degrees on the zodiac wheel. And then starting from a certain point on that chart and counting in one direction or the other, degrees have different letters of the Hebrew alphabet appearing in order, in sequence, from a certain point on the zodiac wheel, so that you can look at the positioning of different heavenly bodies or different features of your astrological chart and find various letters and put them together to come up with different names of different spirits that are significant to you. And the method that Agrippa gives us, that is known as the Arabic method, involves creating a chart such as this, generating your natal chart. Of course, you need to know your time of birth down to the minute. And then what Agrippa tells us to do in his method is starting from 0 degrees, so, or the first degree of the sign of Aries, then counting in a counterclockwise direction, so in the direction that the signs of the zodiac naturally move. Number each degree 1 to 360 from Aleph to Tav in the Hebrew alphabet. Once you reach the final Tav, beginning again at Aleph, until all 360 degrees of the wheel have been given a letter. And once you've done that, there are going to be particular points at particular degrees on your natal chart, which will give you the letters that you need to spell out the name. And in this case, the 5 positions, the 5 degrees that you need to pinpoint on your chart to find the relevant letters are the degrees of the 5 hylegs. What are the 5 hylegs? They are 5 significant positionings in every person's natal chart which are your sun, your moon, your ascendant, your pars fortuna or part of fortune, and fifth and finally your prenatal syzygy. So most people with a basic grasp of astrological concepts will know what the sun sign is and what the moon sign is. It's the point in the sky where the sun or the moon was at your time of birth. And a lot of people know what the ascendant is as well. It's whatever degree of whatever zodiac sign was on the horizon at your time of birth. Not many people know about the part of fortune or pars fortuna, and not many people know about the prenatal syzygy. The prenatal syzygy is easy to understand. It's just the most recent new moon or full moon directly before the time that you were born, and where in the sky that full moon or new moon sat. The pars fortuna is a bit more complex. It's not a heavenly body, or it's not a positioning on the horizon or anything like that. It's kind of a hypothetical point on the chart, which is the distance between other points, namely your sun, moon, and ascendant. And basically the calculation for the pars fortuna involves adding up the numbers of the degrees of the sun, moon, and ascendant and subtracting one or the other depending on when you were born. So if you were born during the day, the pars fortuna is the sum of the degree of your moon and ascending minus the degree of your sun. And if you were born at night, your pars fortuna is the degree of your ascendant plus sun minus the degree of your moon to arrive at that number. And this is all quite confusing, but fortunately there are software programs that can calculate it for you. But if you're interested in the working out, that is how one's part of fortune is calculated. So once you know what your 5 hylegs are in your chart, down to the very degree, you now know the exact positioning of each of those 5 points on the chart. And of course, you will have put your Hebrew letters around the chart, know which degrees correspond to which Hebrew letters, so you can find a letter for each of those 5 points on your chart. And the 5 letters that you're left with is the name of your natal angel. Some people prefer to use tables in order to do this. Some people have already put some tables together that you can work with if you're trying to do this calculation. I know there's one guy, I think it's Brian Pivick, his name is. He's got a series of tables. His tables are referring to a different method of Agrippa's from these chapters for different names. And so he begins from the ascendant rather than the first degree of Aries. But you can easily adapt these tables to count and begin attributing letters from a different point in the chart. And he refers to the houses, the 12 houses in his tables, but of course there's an equal number of degrees to every zodiac sign versus every house. So you can just relabel the tables and they still have the same effect in terms of telling you where to find all the different letters that you need. So I might link that page in the description below if you need an extra resource to help you with this process. So you've got the 5 letters for the 5 hylegs. But that's not the end of the story. To give your angelic name of your natal chart even more power, quite often what you can do is put a name of God as a kind of suffix at the end of that name. Agrippa suggests 4 such names of God, the all too familiar El and Yah that we see at the end of a great many angelic names. And in addition to that, Agrippa suggests you could put the God names Yod or On at the end of the angelic name. And it's by no means an exhaustive list, But, you know, we can say with certainty that we can legitimately use those 4 God names for this method. And you can play around with it a little bit to see what seems like the most suitable kind of name that you can get by adding one of those suffixes. You might want to take into account what it sounds like phonetically, and also the gematria value of that new word. And gematria becomes really important with this technique as well, because when you've finally got your natal angel name, it'll just be a random jumble of letters. It won't be anything intelligible. It won't be a word that has any sort of established meaning. And so you need to find well, maybe it does. Maybe if you're really lucky, it will. But chances are it won't. And so the next step is to try and find out exactly what this word means. And a great way of doing that with any random array of Hebrew letters is to use the art of gematria. It's quite easy to find free gematria tables online, which will give you the value of the various Hebrew letters. There's sort of standard gematria, which is numbers 1 to 9, 10 to 90, and 100 to 400 through the 22 Hebrew letters. And then there's a more complex version of gematria, which involves the final letters. And these are attributed to the higher number values in the hundreds. So each one of those Hebrew letters will have a numerical value. You can add the numerical value up and then go find other words that have that same value. And by looking at the sort of other words that have the same numerical value from gematria as your angelic name, you can start to see some of the meanings that could be attributed to your name. Bill Heydrich has put together a website where he's kind of listed a lot of Hebrew words under various headings, under different numbers, so that you can kind of find a number of words that way. It's more comprehensive than the list that is in Sefer Sephiroth at the back of Liber 777. So you could check that out to find some of those words. And then, of course, the other advantage of attributing a number to that word is that you can have a look at the significance of the numerology of those particular numbers and the meaning behind particular numbers, especially a number that the gematria value reduces down to. So if it was 708, for example, that's 7 plus 0 plus 8 equals 15, and 1 plus 5 equals 6. So you could say that that angelic name is a 6 in numerology, and you could impugn meaning to the name by that method. So what is the point of learning this angelic name? What is the point of learning the name of one's natal angel and the meaning of that word? Well, it can give you some insight into the higher spiritual forces that are motivating your life. It can give you some insight into your fate or destiny. You could even say that it gives you some insight into your true will. So, understanding the dominant spiritual influences in our lives, however you conceive of that, whether it's as dominant planetary or zodiacal forces or what have you, can be very useful in understanding our core of self, and also understanding the biggest forces that motivate us or influence us, for better or for worse. Because, of course, a dominant influence can be negative, but once you understand that influence, you are better able to exercise control over it, which is something that I spoke about in one of my earlier videos about astrology and my thoughts on astrology. There have been some people who have suggested that the natal angel that is calculated using this method is the same as the holy guardian angel. And I don't think that's quite right. there's certainly some overlap. Like there is a relationship between the zodiacal influences in one's life and one's true will. And there's certainly a relationship between the discovery or the understanding of true will and communicating with the holy guardian angel. But what the holy guardian angel represents it incorporates that stuff, but it actually goes even deeper than that as well. There's an extra there's an extra depth to the holy guardian angel, which is related to pure Atman, pure divinity, which is above and beyond and transcends any of the forces of the physical universe, of this created universe. So it's very important not to limit the power of the holy guardian angel in that respect. But we can understand some of the forces and the energies that the holy guardian angel might clothe itself with by understanding our natal angel. So by understanding our natal angel, we get closer to understanding the holy guardian angel. But it's all part of the process of discovering those parts of us that go beyond just the superficial elements of our personality to something deeper within us that is of a spiritual nature, and starting to approach those more spiritual parts of us and understanding that to understand ourselves and understanding the unique path that we must find for ourselves in this life, and the kinds of influences that we must be aware of in order to become the masters of our own fate. So that is the benefit of understanding the name of one's natal angel. It is a name of great power for you personally if you can discover the name of that angel. And Agrippa has provided the means of discovering that name, which I've shared with you now. So I hope that you found this video useful and that it has primed you for your own journey, if you so wish to make it, towards discovering the name of your own natal angel. So if you did enjoy this video, please remember to like the video, subscribe to my channel to support my work if you're new here. You can subscribe to me on Odyssey as well. And if you want to support me further, you can also hit the join button down below, or you can send me super thanks by pressing the thanks button down below. But thank you once again for listening, and I'll see you next time.